The United States men's national team is set to kick off against Mexico in the 2025 Gold Cup final tomorrow, July 6th at 6 p.m. Central. They're going to be playing at NRG Stadium in Houston, Texas, so while this is technically a home game for the U.S., it's going to feel like an away match. The Mexican fans are going to be out in droves, and they are going to pack that stadium, so the fans of the U.S. who can go need to be loud. Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the T26 channel, where we talk about all things related to the U.S. men's national team. And today we're going to do a preview of the final of the Gold Cup between the United States men's national team and Mexico. These two countries have squared off exactly 80 times in their history, dating back to 1934, with Mexico holding a 39, 25, and 16 record. So you heard that right. The U.S. men's national team only has 25 wins in its history against Mexico. However, if we dive a little bit further into our history, we can see that we have made great strides in the last 20 years and had even more progress in the last 5. The amount of progress that the U.S. men's national team has made over the last 20-25 years can be easily seen in our record against Mexico. Since the year 2000, these two teams have played 37 times, with the U.S. having 19 wins, 8 draws, and 10 losses. So we've actually gotten the majority of our wins in the last 20 years throughout a rivalry that has dated back again to 1934. Looking even further into our progress, we've only lost to Mexico in one competitive match in the last 5 years, and that was in fact a Gold Cup final in 2019. Obviously, our team and our roster and our player pool has completely turned over since then, and so has Mexico. So ultimately, we've dominated the relationship the last 5 or 6 years. But the last time these two teams met in October of 2024, Mexico took home a 2-0 win in Mexico. Yes, this was a friendly. Yes, this was early on in Mauricio Pochettino's career with the U.S. men's national team, but the result is the result, and they beat us 2-0. When looking at this Mexico team, they have absolutely rolled through the Gold Cup thus far, which honestly we had all expected them to. However, they have not been racking up all the goals that we would expect with the talent that they brought in. They've actually scored 4 goals on set pieces, which is quite impressive, but 3 of those goals have actually come from one player, Cesar Montes, and he's a center back. With talent up top like Raul Jimenez and Santi Jimenez coming off the bench, there's no reason that Mexico should realistically not be scoring more from open play, but their main threat has come off of set pieces. So I'm going to say that, one, we know Raul Jimenez is great in the air. He's a good finisher, whether it's off of crosses, whether he's creating for himself, finishing himself. But also we need to keep an eye on Cesar Montes. He's clearly been a target. He's clearly been effective. This is going to be a battle of set pieces because we have been strong on set pieces ourselves with Chris Richards emerging. Patrick Agyemang, he's been a target. He's gotten his head on things, but they haven't gone to the back of the net. I'm hopeful that we can have a strong performance with our set pieces going forward and on defense because, honestly, this might be a 1-0 slugfest either way, and whoever's stronger on set pieces is going to come out on top. Another player from Mexico that we need to keep an eye on is Mora, the 16-year-old. He is very young, but he's very talented. The last time the U.S. men's national team had a player that young on the field, or close to that age, was Christian Pulisic. Yes, we have a couple of great prospects coming up in Kevin Sullivan and Mathis Albert, but neither one of them is sniffing our B or C roster here, and definitely not our A roster. Mora is on a Mexico A team right now. That is a lot of talent, and he's looked comfortable and creative and dynamic on the ball, and he's bossing their midfield right now. And he had to step up and play a grown man's game in the semifinal against Honduras, and he looked good. This is going to be a test for us. Whether Tyler Adams has to shut him down, whether we have to assist on the wings, I don't know. But this Mexico team has depth and talent. Now, the players that we have on our roster that need to be watched out for are going to come as a surprise to no one. We're looking at Malik Tillman and Diego Luna. They have been the driving force of our offense throughout this entire tournament. And truthfully, they're going to have to do it again. They're going to have to dominate and create and play off of each other to give the U.S. men's national team a chance. Both of those players have looked very good so far against the minnows of CONCACAF, and I will say that Costa Rica is kind of that upper level CONCACAF just below the U.S., Mexico, and Canada. But they're not great. They're still in a transition period. This is going to be that true test to see what Luna and Tillman can really bring to the table for the U.S. men's national team moving forward against World Cup competition. And again, Mexico is not the peak of the football world, but they're a great step up from Guatemala and Trinidad and Tobago. So I'm excited to see what our two strongest players can bring to the table in this matchup as well. So let's talk about what we should expect in this matchup against Mexico. I would say that they are likely to attack down the right-hand side because they're a smart federation and they've seen that Max Arfsten is a liability when it comes to defense. Yes, he can contribute going forward. Yes, he can get on the end of things, but he is definitely not a solid left back for us. And I would be shocked if we don't see Mexico overload their right side of the attack with get good crosses into Raul Jimenez and watch him put the ball in the back of the net. Aside from that, I'm thinking that Mexico is likely to dominate possession. This is a Mexican team that has traditionally liked to be on the ball, and they're going to have home field advantage. They're going to try and suck the air out of us early, and I would not be shocked if we hear quite a few olays from the Mexican fans in long stints of possession by the Mexican team. We cannot let that get in our heads. We have to keep our cool, and we have to stay focused. If we get into some rash fouls and we get a red card early, that's going to hurt us not only in this matchup, but again going into the World Cup. Because that suspension will carry over into our next competitive match, which we don't have until the 2026 World Cup kicks off. So we have to keep our heads about us to have a chance in this matchup and in matchups going forward. We're likely going to have to do a role reversal on how we've played thus far in this tournament, because I think that Mexico is going to have that possession mentality, and we're going to struggle to take that away from them. So what are we going to have to do in that first 15 to 20 minutes is absorb pressure. We're going to have to take that on. We're going to have to stop them coming at us early. And if we can last through that first 15 to 20 minutes, we're likely to see some frustration set in from the fans and from that Mexican team. If we can weather that storm early, we're going to be in good shape later on. But if we give up a goal early, we're going to have to open up the game. They're going to be able to make us run and chase shadows, and we're going to be chasing the game for the next 70, 75 minutes, and it's likely going to end up 2-3-0 if that happens, because Mexico has the quality to punish us where our other opponents thus far have not. Before we wrap up, I'm going to get into my starting 11 and what that would look like versus what I think Mauricio Pochettino is going to do. And to keep things simple, I'm going to start off with what I think Poch is going to do. And that is the same thing he's done so far. He's going to keep the same lineup that he did against Guatemala and Costa Rica. He's going to have Arfsten, Ream, Richards, and Freeman in the back line. He's going to have Tyler Adams and Luca De La Torre in the midfield with Diego Luna, Malik Tillman, and Sebastian Berhalter as our attacking three, with Patrick Agyemang up front as our number 9. He's proven that he has his guys and he likes his guys, so I don't see him making any changes. If it were me, I would put John Tolkien in as a left back. I think that's going to shake up what Mexico's seen in the film that they've had so far, so it can impact their game plan, and we know that Tolkien is a more steady defender. That's the change I would make on our back line. Going into our midfield, if Johnny's healthy, I think this is a good game for him. I want him to be next to Tyler Adams. His reading of the game, his defensive capabilities are greater than Luca De La Torre. He's good at breaking up passes. He's good at getting into tackles. And he's good at being another physical presence. We've seen it at the club level. We haven't seen it here with the national team yet, and I would love to. However, he's been nursing an ankle injury, so I would be surprised if we see him there. So what I would do instead is move Sebastian Berhalter from the wing into that double pivot next to Tyler Adams. I think that he brings a little bit more defensively than Luca De La Torre does, and that's going to help our dual pivot in front of our back line. In place of Sebastian Berhalter on the wing, it's going to be Brenden Aaronson. We know he has the work rate. I'm not looking for him to contribute too much offensively in this matchup. I want him to be able to help Freeman when the ball comes down that line. I think that his work rate and his ability is there defensively. We've seen him do this exact same thing and play this exact same role in the Nations League in the past against Canada when Joe Scally was going up against Alphonso Davies. Brenden Aaronson was on the wing, and he helped Scally limit Davies, one of the best players in our region, all game long. There's no reason that he can't do it in this matchup as well. And then moving forward, I'm a big advocate for Damian Downs. We need to see him. He's looked better. He's looked more comfortable. He's looked like he has a good touch and can contribute. I just don't think that Poch is going to move from his set lineup so far. Finally, I'm going to get into my official score prediction for this game. And if everything goes according to plan and we are able to weather that storm for the first 15 to 20 minutes, I don't see Mexico putting up too many goals, but I also don't see us getting on the board much either. I really believe that our peak against a team of this caliber is 2 goals, and that might be a little bit generous for us. I think this is going to be a game of set pieces. And I think that we're going to get on the board because of a good delivery from Sebastian Berhalter and Chris Richards getting on the end of one. I believe that Mexico is going to be able to break us down at least once as well. And the American in me is going to say that this ends in a 1-1 draw and it goes to penalties, where I think that Matt Freese, who I forgot to mention is going to be our starting goalkeeper again, will step up and will elevate us to another Gold Cup victory. All right, guys, that's everything I've got for you today. Let me know what you think. How are we going to line up? What's the final score of this matchup going to be? And leave a like and a comment in the comment section down below explaining all that and why. All right, let's go get this W and feel really good about the summer that we've put together thus far. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.